Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for Thursday, August 10th, 2017. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. The ES continues to wiggle back and forth at these highs. Again, not anything special at the moment. We could just be kind of expanding this range. Every time it goes to an edge, it comes back. It comes back to a lower edge. It comes back. So right now, not a whole lot really to do right now. We've swung back down toward the lower edge of the range. Yesterday, there was a good shot to reach 24.57. Just came very, very shy of that level. We might still see that level here today. But again, any push, even as deep as 24.40, could still be a great buying opportunity for an eventual turn back up and a continuation. So right now, we're still in the range. Very, very choppy behavior in here. Not a whole lot to really go off of just now from a swing perspective, but if we get a little bit lower, it could be a great buy here. If we take a look at the intraday time frame, one thing you'll notice about the intraday is how price trended straight down here throughout most of the session, and also did that most of yesterday as well early in the day. So if we bring this back and go up to a 512 tick chart, this thing had been trending much lower the previous session here. So we had the big spike high up here, and then price just dropped and took off. Ended up being a rejection day here. After that, price went mostly sideways. So you see the previous session here. It was pretty much right here, boom, 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 just going sideways. Not really a whole lot to do at this moment, but again, if we start to get below 60, especially 57, that could be an opportunity to bring it back up. So right now, just chopping around in this range and continue to watch the edges. Here's crude oil. All right, so if you take a look over here, crude oil right now continues to hold within its narrow range. I mentioned that there's been lots and lots of quiet ranges here in the ES and the NQ and CL in big issues like Amazon. And in this case right here, we have a very, very narrow range. It's basically paid out from 50, which that's right where price is right now, 50, down to 48.40. Price was above that zone for a couple of days, but quickly got below, and we've been inside this little box ever since. Obviously, the trend still points up. So even if price pulls back here, it's still a buying opportunity, very similar to the ES. One thing I do know about these ranges is oftentimes the first break can be a false break. So watching if price pushes above 50 here, if there's any failure to hold above 50, that could be an early indication that we might be pushing back against the opposite end of the range. If we're going to push through this range and really see a breakout, then again, 52s is the next level up. But you got to see a breakout day with a nice continuation past those prior pivot highs. All right, let's take a look here at the NQ. And the NQ, very similar to the ES, very tight range. I mentioned before that this one, I'm more of a wait and see right now. We have an uptrending market overall, and price is chopping almost perfectly around the key range high of 59.07.5. Price has stayed within, for 2 weeks now, that Thursday range. So it's an inside kind of development here over the last 2 weeks within that Thursday range. That's just incredible how that's played out. Overall, if there's a failure to hold outside the top of this range, that would suggest a return to the midpoint and perhaps across the range. If any of those scenarios occur, those pullbacks could be buying opportunities, perhaps back as low as the midpoint here, especially at the LVN between 5,500 and 5,550. That would be a gimme buy opportunity if price were to pull back that far. Not sure it happens, but just to keep that on the board, this is still a fantastic buy zone if it were to be seen. Right now, price likely to continue to push higher. So even if we do push down, very similar to the ES or crude oil, watch for signs of a failed range expansion because that could get you on the first train headed north. All right, let's look lastly at Gold here, I think when we last left off with gold, we saw a big time squeeze here after a hold off of the 1260s. 1260s was the level that we were watching for a bounce opportunity for a continuation into basically 1290 to 1300. We're very close right now. Got into 1287s today. I thought 1260s might have been toast here when price failed to hold above that high and started to push downward and break. But by the end of the day here, price was not able to hold above 1260, and we talked about that in our trading room when price was down below those lows. I said if price can't hold below 1260, that's the over-under. By the end of the day, we might get one of those tails on each ends of the day, and that might not be good for the bears. So bulls still contain control of that 1260 based off of that failure to push to new lows. And now that has led to a nice continuation higher. Holding right now previous highs at 1280. Again, any near-term pullback could still be a one more time up into 1300. Once you get up to 1300 or past these previous highs, again, the idea is to watch for rejection. So once price does hit that zone, we could be looking at rejection again that leads price back all the way against the range, because that's been the trading range since February, and we could continue to see this thing play out in this range until proven otherwise. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you soon.